You.
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's great to see you.
You too. I'm so excited to do this. Okay, so funny story really quick before we get started.
What's up?
So I was looking in my notes, like to look up, because I've got interview questions for you, getting all prepped. And the first one that popped up was actually my outline for an interview that I did. And I looked at the date. It was December of 2022 was the last time. I'm like, I can't believe we've been internet friends like since like that many years now.
That's
I'm
crazy. That's
not believe
crazy.
it's that long and it's been that long since we've actually sat down and done this. So I'm super excited to have you back. So,
Same. Super happy to be here.
okay, cool. So we have a few minutes. So just, like behind the scenes for those people that are watching live, tell us like, how's your day? What's going on? You actually got, oh yes. And we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about books a little bit later on, a particular one. But today you had a really cool opportunity that you told me about, which is why we're doing it this time. So tell me that real quick.
So it was really great. So there was a Blueprint to Success panel today up in Bergen County, New Jersey. And there were 8 people on this panel. And actually, once I got there, I realized all 8 were all graduates of my P.U.S.H training program. And It was just so amazing to watch their success and like what they have done, what they've learned, how I've impacted their business and how that's impacted their lives. I'm just sitting back there with a smile on my face thinking, man, if I didn't get out of my own way, you know what? I'm going to save that for our talk. I will just say this. I was very proud of them. It made me feel really, really good to be there. It was awesome.
It is probably one of the most fulfilling things when you're a leader in any capacity, whether you're a leader of your household, you are a leader, like you're leading your clients right into one of the biggest financial purchases or sales of their lives, or you're in a position like you and like me who are coaches and trainers. It is so fulfilling to see the impact that you have on people and just the joy that brings and the satisfaction of seeing other people win because of influence you had. And like you said, and we'll talk about it, but like we have to get over our own limiting beliefs in order to have that impact and actually do the thing and get outside of our comfort zone. So that's really cool. You got to see that.
Thank you. Thank you. It was amazing. It was amazing. Great way to start my day, I should say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Okay. Well, any like little last thing before we get started, because I'll do like a whole intro to the hype seat, to you and all the things. But before we dive in, since we have a couple minutes, anything, that's on your mind right now or any wins lately?
So I will tell you, one thing that's on my mind right now is I'm talking to a lot of agents that are feeling a little discouraged. And I'm so excited that we're talking today because I think our conversation will help them.
Yep.
And I think most people just need to understand there is a process, there is a blueprint to success. And, we don't gatekeep. We're willing to share that information. So if anybody who is watching is feeling that way, I know that you will feel different after we talk. And I'm excited about that.
Absolutely. Me too. Me too. What I love that some of my favorite conversations with people is, and what I found actually is that people that are quote unquote at the top or what other people see, okay, that's what that's my goal. That's who I want to emulate and who I want to be with. People like that in general are so willing to share, and they're not gatekeepers. They're not afraid or threatened by someone else being successful. And that's why these conversations not only matter, but why they are actually impactful. Because we're not just giving you, all of the successes and all that. Like we're actually going to dive deep. I've got hard questions for you that we're going to be real about that. So,
all right.
And I know you're ready because
I'm an open book.
Fabulous. Okay, we are right at the top of the hour, so let's freaking go since we're ready. So if you are live, because I know, did you get everything set up on your end? Are you live as well?
I think I did, and if I'm not, I'm okay with that. I'm here for you.
That's an option, so it's all good. Good. Anyways, so we're live on all the things. So let's get this party started here. All right. So you guys, this is the hype seat where the real ones drop real strategy in real time, no scripts, no fillers, no BS. We go live across TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So what you're hearing right now, it's real, it's raw, and it's happening as we speak. So we don't have perfect edits, no motivational theater, just unfiltered conversations with people who actually walk the walk. This show, you guys, is for builders, leaders, people who want to create momentum in a world full of noise, pressure, and distractions. If you're growing a business or building a brand or figuring out what's next, and you're tired of playing small or playing safe, you are in the right place. Each week, I bring on voices that matter, not because they're famous, but because they're doing something worth talking about. They're innovating, disrupting, leading with intention, and we're putting them in the hype seat. So today, we have David Radney, aka D-Rad, speaker, coach, and creator of P.U.S.H, Prospect Until Success Happens. He's here to talk about his upcoming book, P.U.S.H, I Want It More Than I Fear It. A raw, unfiltered look at what it really takes to stop letting fear run your life and start building something with purpose. But this isn't just a mindset pep talk. We're going to go deeper than that. David's here to challenge the performative grind and call out the robotic scripts and bring it back to something a lot of people in business have lost, which is the human side. We're going to talk about the power of asking better questions in sales and leadership and in your own self-talk and how that can change everything. We'll break down how to push through resistance, how to stop leading with fear, and why getting real is the most underrated skill in the game right now. So whether you're growing a brand or managing your burnout, building confidence, or just trying to get your fire back, this one is going to hit for you guys. So sit down, lock in. This is the hype seat. Let's go.
Woo, that was awesome.
Awesome. Okay. So, all right, D-Rad, we've got no BS today, no filters, and no corporate answers here. I know you work with people who should be winning. They're smart people, skilled people, people with goals, in their notebooks, and yet they're feeling stuck. So let's not pretend that it's just about and only about mindset, because if we're honest, most of them already know what to do. They're just not doing it, and I want to go deep just right out of the gate because that's how we are. So what do you think is the actual cost of inaction? Not just like money lost, but like the identity erosion and what happens to someone internally when they keep watching their life happen instead of leading it.
Listen, I've been in that situation before, and what you start doing is you start doubting yourself. Am I good enough? Who am I to want to have that type of business and make that type of income? And then also the thing that I recognize having 2 young daughters is that you aren't aware of who's watching you. And when you give up and you don't push through and fight for what's important to you, they're not going to fight as hard either. And so we're setting an example, not just for our kids, we're setting examples for people we don't even know that are paying attention to how we're living our lives. You'd be surprised who's watching. And they want to see you win. They want to see you get up and rise. And when you give up, a lot of times they lose faith and they don't take action either. And that's unfortunate. So you got to know people are paying attention to you.
100%. And I don't think people realize that the longer that you wait, the longer that you do that, the heavier things get. And because it's not just a to-do list anymore, then it becomes that weight on your chest.
Absolutely.
And the longer you stall, the more you doubt, your own power. And then you feel like you already failed and because you waited too long to start or you gave up before you could get there. And that costs the confidence in yourself. And that's a heavy price to pay.
Well, I think too, you said you feel like you failed. I think people need to get comfortable failing. If I wasn't willing to fail, I wouldn't be where I am right now because I have fallen on my face so many times. It's though, like, think about this. When you're teaching a young kid how to ride a horse and they fall off, do you know the first thing the instructor has them do? Get right back on the horse.
Yeah.
Because exactly. If they don't get right back on, they're going to create this scenario in their head and they're like, I'm afraid of horses. However, if you have a brief conversation, why did you fall off? Now let's get back on and let's fix that. You're going to have a better experience. And I think people just need to understand failure is part of the process. And if you look at why you failed and then learn from that and get back on that horse, you're not going to make that mistake again. You'll make other mistakes.
Yep.
And you'll have other failures. That's okay, though. You're learning in the process.
It's so funny. Literally last week, I had my daughter at the park and she just learned at gymnastics how to hang upside down, no hands with her legs. She's 5 years old.
Fancy.
And so I decided to get my phone and record her. And so this was the third time she was going to do it. She showed me twice. I'm like, oh, let me record it. Let me, show it to grandma, whatever. And all of a sudden I'm filming. She's like, mommy, mommy, mommy. And I'm like, shoot. So I get up to go catch her. She falls. And I'm like, internally, I'm like, oh my God, like, was your neck broken? Whatever. I pick her up and she's freaking out. She's freaking out. Right. And she wanted to leave. And it inside, I just wanted to take her right and be mama bear, but I'm like, nope, I'm going to make her do it one more time before we go. And it was so traumatic. Like there's other people at the park, right? And it was causing this big scene, but in the midst of all that, I'm like, it's really important that she does. I got to make her do it one more time. So I did. Did she hate it? But she did it. And I was holding her. I was right there, but right. And then literally the next day she was like, mommy, I want to go back to the park. I want to try it again. So that's like such, I know, proud mom moment, whatever, but
absolutely.
there's a lot of reasons I could have been like, oh, like I don't want, she's screaming, I just want to like take her out, it's uncomfortable, she really doesn't want to do this. But I know for her grit, you gotta, like you said, get back on that horse. So I love that you brought that up. It's so true.
Yeah. And I love that you referenced your daughter, because when you think about it, I have 2 daughters as well. I mean, listen, watching them learn how to walk, you just wanted to go and save them because they were standing up and falling down and standing up and falling down. However, now they're running. And so it's just part of the process. The failure is part of the process.
Yep. So with all of that, like, have you ever, so bringing it from, kids obviously into, what we're doing now with agents, have you ever had to coach someone back to themselves after too much inaction or that fear? And like, what does that look like? What actually works to pull someone out of that loop? Because that's what it is really, is a habit loop.
Yeah. So for me, the way that I coach, I really believe it's important to understand what someone's why is all about. And when I say a why, most agents, hey, how much money do you want to make? And the standard answer is 100,000, right? That's what we hear, right? And that's not it, though. It's why 100,000. What is that going to do for you? How's that going to change your life? How's that going to impact you? How are you going to feel? There's this saying that I love. It's logic makes people think. Emotion makes people act.
Yep.
So logically, we know all the things we should be doing. Anybody who's in real estate that doesn't really know what they should be doing, they're not paying attention. The blueprint's out there. Yep. However, just because you know it doesn't mean you're doing it. However, when that emotional why is there, like for my wife and I, we had to pay for ourselves to go to school. We want to pay for our daughters to go to college and let them graduate and be debt free. That's an emotional trigger for us. That's a big why. So when we get up every day, when we don't feel like it, we're doing it because of them. Logically, we know we need to get up, but not everybody gets up. We get up because on the emotional side of that, when our daughter's graduating and not having any debt, gets 100%. Us moving.
Yep. And that's what I want people to catch. Like, it's not, getting unstuck isn't about another plan, another webinar, more training. It's about rebuilding trust within yourself, reconnecting with why is it that I want to do this?
Right.
So, let's call this out. People think they need more confidence in order to act, but isn't it the other way around? Don't you build confidence by taking messy and imperfect action?
Absolutely. One of the things you referenced my book earlier, and one of the things I had to go through overcoming my fear of public speaking is to raise my hand and get these little micro wins. Maybe I'm talking for 10 seconds. Maybe I'm saying one word. However, having those little small wins every time, it built my confidence. I'm getting 1% better every day. And when you do that day in and day out over a course of a year, you really improve. You're moving that needle. I had to build the confidence by taking action, not the other way around, like you said.
Yes. Yeah. And so if you're listening right now and you feel frozen, right, it's not because you're lazy, but you're probably scared of messing up, the fear of all that. Here's your permission slip to push past that. And yes, pun intended with push. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to get in motion. And because confidence doesn't really come from clarity. Like, sure, is clarity important? Yes, or all these things, but confidence really gets built with action. Like you said, getting up when you don't feel like it, then you get up and then you start to feel like it once you kind of get the ball rolling.
Absolutely.
And sometimes like the version of you that you're waiting to become is sitting on the other side of just that first imperfect move, just doing the thing.
I completely agree with that. There's a book. Have you read Atomic Habits?
I have. James Clear.
So, yeah. Remember that section about needing to work out? And it's like, you may wake up and not want to work out. Sometimes it's just a matter of getting in your car and driving to the parking lot of the gym. Right. And then maybe the next day you walk inside.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, you're taking these baby steps. You're creating the habits and you're taking action. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yep. 100%. Or taking something like habit stacking. Speaking of atomic habits, like
habit stacking, yes.
Something that you do on a like every day, I brush my teeth twice a day, right? So maybe it's okay. Every time I brush my teeth, that's a trigger to do 10 push-ups or to do 10 phone calls, like, whatever it is, if we're talking real estate.
Absolutely.
And, make the pathway to what is you're trying to get easier for you by stacking it with something that you already do. Do you make coffee every morning? Okay, perfect. Either right, but before you can have your coffee, I'm going to do this. That's going to get me one step closer to whatever it is that I'm going after.
I love habit stacking. I think you're absolutely right on that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, okay, let's transition a bit. Let's get into one of the hottest contradictions in sales right now, or one of them. So you've got one crowd saying, ditch the scripts, just be a human, have a conversation, right? And then you've got another end of it that's saying, that's doubling down, treating scripts like it's the Bible, holy text, okay? But let's be real, most of the agents freezing up on their calls or their conversations aren't struggling because of the script. They're struggling because they don't understand how to use one without sounding like a robot. So where's that line between using a script as a foundation, or hiding behind it like a crutch?
So what I've found with my coaching is that people need to internalize the script. It's not about memorizing, it's internalizing. So it just comes out and you know what to say. When it comes out that way, you're making it your own. So you don't sound scripted and robotic, because the script is really just a blueprint for the dialogue you need to have with a customer.
Right.
And so once you internalize that, you're able to actually unplug from the script and be part of the conversation. And I think that's what people need to understand about scripting.
Yeah, scripts are a starting point, not a personality.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know, like at the Hype Collective, when I coach people, like I build hundreds of scripts. I mean, there's hundreds of scripts available, right?
Absolutely.
And every single one. But what the purpose of it is to spark a real conversation, not perform for someone, not to like pretend that you're, the smartest person in the room, but it's to have a connection. So what are better questions agents should be asking that instantly shift a conversation from more transactional to transformational?
Well, first of all, before we go into that, I just have to say something based on what you said earlier. You mentioned like being a human. So you could be reading verbatim from a script. Okay, when you sell this house, where are you moving to? Right. And they say, oh, California, because I got a new job. A lot of people will go right to the next question.
Yeah.
Okay, and how soon do you have to be there? And that's where the human piece comes in. Oh, congratulations, you got a new job. Tell me a little bit more about that. Right. It's just understanding the script is the question, how they respond, and then how you respond is what's going to cause that conversation to flow and get them to open up and really start to share the emotional triggers that are making them move, because we are problem solvers. We got to figure out what their problem is and help them solve it, and understanding their pain and pleasure points. You get to understand that by being a human and unplugging from the script and being able to say something like, congratulations, tell me more about that. What's that mean for you and your family? How's that going to feel? That's the human element that people are missing.
100%. And that's the thing. It's like, scripts aren't the enemy. It's the disconnection. It's not about sounding slick. Because, I'm sure you've had people come to you be like, hey, I read the script exactly, and I didn't get the result. But it's about being present enough to actually hear what someone's saying or even not saying, because at the end of the day, it's not the question itself. It's not the script. It's the energy behind it. If you say, I love you versus I love you, like that, saying the same words, but the energy behind it and, the flow of the conversation is where that difference really is. And I feel like that's why your work and what you're doing with people hits different. That's why you've got 8 people, on a stage that, are talking about their success, because you broke through to people. You're not just people what to say, you're showing them how to connect. So, I'm just, thinking of the people listening right now. If you don't just need a better pitch, you need better questions, you need deeper connection.
Better questions is really it, though. So like saying things like, how certain are you? Help me understand. There's this magic book that people talk about, and I read the book, Exactly What to Say, for real estate agents.
I've sent that to my people.
It's like, read that book every day and then practice it, not just in real estate, practice it in your everyday life. Because when you say, how certain are you that that's the case? It causes people to really think, oh man, I'm actually not that certain, right? We get into this habit of, we tell people that's not going to work. When we tell them that's our opinion.
Yes.
When we ask the questions, how certain are you? And they're like, well, I'm not quite sure that that's actually going to work. Well, now that they've said it, it's more of a fact. And that allows you to take that script where you need to take it, because through asking questions, you're leading them to the conclusion you want them to get to by asking the right questions.
100%. You're making me think of an example of, because we all deal with clients who are so sure that, because of, whatever they've heard, that now is not the right time, or whatever objection it is. Right. And when you say and use phrases and questions like, well, how certain are you? And it opens, oh, well, I read this article that said, then you get a sense of where is that information, where did that opinion or that belief that they have come from, and then you know what to address from there. It's not about convincing them that they're wrong. It's about understanding and then educating, right? Instead of having a combative or defensive response from them by saying, well, no, that's not true. It's like, well, where'd you hear that? Oh, interesting. Okay, did you know? And transitioning that way.
Very good points. Very good points.
Yeah. So I want to do another transition because this is really important. I feel like you've shown this. Everyone loves to talk about balance, right? And what a lot of people don't talk about, though, is how much had to be sacrificed before that balance became even an option. So like the sacrifices, like the early days when you feel like you're in the grind, you're doing everything right, and like you don't have the results yet, no one's clapping, your bank account sucks, like all of those things. And the only thing keeping you moving is like maybe this will work, or like in my mind, this all makes sense. So before push, right? You have that now. Before you were the coach, the mentor, the guy that people knew they could go to, rely on because you have proof of concept. What did that invisible season really look like? The non-sexy piece of it.
Let me, and it's not sexy, like right where you're showing up every day and you're making calls and you're doing the follow-up and you are practicing the scripts and things just aren't happening. Like at those times, I remember several times wanting to give up. I'm like, it's got to be me. It's got to be me. And so what it looked like for me, number one, I have a very supportive wife who's very encouraging, and she's not going to allow me to create a false narrative in my head. If things aren't happening and I'm doing the activities, then it's a skill issue and I need to figure out what I'm not saying correctly. So she got in my head and I figured out, okay, I was doing one thing that I shouldn't do, and that was running my mouth, talking too much, right? And that solved the problem. I needed to be asking more questions and listening. Like everybody's talking about, hey, I got this listening presentation. No, you don't. You have a listening presentation. You go there and listen. Stop talking so much. That's half the problem. You talk yourself out of a deal. So when I had those dry periods and things weren't going well, what kept me going, number one, was my wife. But number two, understanding what I was doing it for, why I was showing up every single day, and the things that were important to me kept me going. And when you continue to push, when you continue to reset and get better, and every day wake up and know you have a new opportunity, before you know it, things happen gradually and then they start happening suddenly. The issue is most of us give up at the 11th hour, right when something is about to happen. We stop right there. It's like that image. I know you've seen this. The guy's in mine.
Gold mine. Yep.
Right. And he gives up. He's like, I've been doing this. I'm sweating. I'm tired. I'm leaving. And another miner comes in, hits it one time.
Yep. 100%.
We don't see that and understand that. I call it invisible progress, right? Like you go to a kid's party and there's a piñata, 10 kids hit it, nothing happens. The 11th kid hits it, the candy breaks out. Well, who actually opened it up? It was all the invisible progress from the people beforehand. So it's that invisible progress of you showing up, making your calls, doing your follow-up, doing your door knocking. You don't think things are happening, but you're building up this momentum. And then eventually things will explode and happen for you. You just can't stop. You got to keep going.
Yep. You don't get the brand. We see everyone's highlight reel on social media, right? Or the article of someone, who made it, but you don't get the brand, the leverage, the lifestyle without bleeding for the version of you that doesn't exist yet. So
that's right.
You have to build that person in the dark. You're not going to get praise. You're not going to get, a lot of times not going to get the support that you feel like you need. So let me ask you straight, like, was there ever a moment where you questioned if it was worth it? And what made you keep showing up even when you were in that valley of, disappointment or despair, whatever it was?
What made me keep showing up, and yes, there has been multiple times in my life, multiple iterations where I felt that way. What made me keep showing up is that I wanted to change the financial future of my family. I wanted to change our legacy around money and how we viewed money. And I wanted to give my family a different life. So I kept showing up for them.
Yep.
And I did little things I would learn from mentors. As an example, Steve Harvey, most people know who he is.
Yep.
I remember a challenge he did, and he said, hey, next time you take a trip, buy the first class ticket. You're going to have to stretch yourself, buy it, and then see what happens when they close those curtains and what type of treatment you get. Well, you know what? Once I did that, I'm like, oh, I see what money can do. Oh, the only thing keeping me from making money is I'm not making enough calls. I'm not following up. I'm not asking enough. I'm not learning the scripts well enough. Let me sit down and figure this out because that's how I want to live. I'm 6'4". I don't want to be sitting and coach. I want first class where I can stretch my legs out. That requires money. And so having those things that are important, that excite you, get you to go to work and show up.
And which is why it all starts with what we talked about in the beginning of really understanding it's not just like money is just paper, right? When you actually, okay, right. When someone says, oh, I want to make more money, it's like, well, like it's not that like it's a tool to actually get what you want. So what do you really want? Usually people don't realize what they're saying when they're like, oh, I want to make more money. It's like, well, what's behind that? Is it you want to fly first class? Is it that you want to pay for your kids' college education or whatever it might be?
But even when they know it, I'm sorry to interrupt. Even when they know it, it's still not strong enough. As an example, I had a student in my coaching program. I'm like, why are you here? I want to make 100,000, right? Why? Well, we've never owned a house. I want to own a house. I'm like, okay, tell me about the house. Couldn't really articulate it. So I gave her an assignment. I want you to sit down with your family. I want you to figure out what that house looks like. And when you figure out what it looks like, you're an agent. Get on the MLS, find that house. I want you to go to that house. I want you to walk around that house. I want you to sit on the couch. And before you leave, I want you to take a selfie in front of that house. And that's what you put up on that vision board, because the way you feel, the goosebumps you get when you pull up to that house and you think, that's what I want. When you take that picture, you're going to remember how that felt. And when you look at your vision board, it's going to cause you to take action because you want to have that feeling. It's got to be that real.
Yep. 100%. It's so funny. I did that. This was, back in 2017. I created a vision board and I put a white 4Runner on it. That at the time, that was my, reasonable goal for, or stretch goal, whatever, for that year. And I assumed in my mind that I would, by the end of this year, that's what I wanted. That was on my goal board for the end of this year. Well, I had that posted in my office. And I so I saw it every single day, and I ended up buying it 3 months later. And I just, and at the time, when I put it on my board, I thought that was more, longer term. So it just, the power of getting closer to the thing, not like, oh, one day, whatever, if you have it in front of your face, if you go to the house that you want, like you're saying, and putting yourself there, and the more that you envision it, your mind subconsciously is going to, drive towards that thing. And so you're right, that making the things real, as real as you can, like physically going to that house or looking at that car, whatever, your subconscious mind towards that, and impacts your actions.
It does. And then also looking yourself in the mirror and saying this thing, why not me? Why not you?
Yep.
Okay. I can talk about this forever, but I'm gonna be quiet.
No, I like it. People want real, raw, honest though. Like this is genuinely the things. I believe you. I believe that like you looked in the mirror and said those things, because it does. It's I tell people at the top, the people at the top had no less struggles, no less roadblocks than anyone. Someone always starts with something more than you or starts with less than you, and they've made it. Whatever the industry, whatever the business is. So like I said, why not you? They're
why not you?
We live in America. We're more blessed than most of the world, or we have a better start just being born here or living here than
Agreed.
Most do. So why not you? Okay, cool. This is good. This is good stuff. So I know we talked about the grind, the bleed that it takes, the sacrifice you have to make if you actually want something and you actually want to reach that success. And that's the season that most people try and skip. And the ones that actually, push through that's really the difference. It's not, you don't hear successful be like, I'm successful because I had a really nice office to go to, or I had, this tool was it. It was like, no, I decided I was going to do it and nothing was going to stop me.
Right.
that is the concept where, you know, you're coaching the push concept, the prospect until success happens. I feel like that's where, you know, all of this kind of comes into play. And it's not just some cute acronym on a whiteboard. That came from you sitting in the fire, helping others while, you know, you're still getting, you know, singed yourself in that fire, right? So I want to talk about that moment where push stopped being something that you were just surviving in and then started becoming something that you could teach. Where did that shift happen?
You know, that's actually a really great question. The shift happened when I really started leaning into overcoming my fear of public speaking. And the one way to do that was to help other people, you know, with scripting. Because as I'm helping you, I'm really helping myself and getting out of my comfort zone. And that prospecting until success happens, like I had a standard in my business. I had to talk to 20 people a day. And so if I didn't talk to them at 5 o'clock, guess what? I was still working.
Yep.
I had to do it until it was done. I had to prospect until success happened, right? Until I got the outcome I was looking for. And so people watched me struggle and then they saw me having success. They wanted to know, hey, how are you doing this versus how did you get there? And I'm like, well, I can show you all the things I'm doing today. What you need to see is what I did to get there.
Yep.
And so that's how Push got developed, me just laying out the blueprint. This is what you need to know. This is what you need to say. This is how you need to say it. These are the questions that you need to ask. And I started helping people go through this journey in real estate where their eyes opened up and they recognize that prospecting isn't a bad word. Right. You're actually calling because people need your help. They just don't know it yet. And if you would just take your freaking sales hat off and call and how can I help? What are you trying to accomplish? What's your goal here? And then you help them solve that problem. It goes to exactly what Zig Ziglar always says. You help enough people get what they want, you always get what you want. So I taught people through pushing, don't worry about your commission check.
Yep.
Worry about helping them solve their problem. And guess what magically appears? Your commission check. Right. So it's like all those little pieces coming together is where Push came from. And that's what I realized I was doing. I was prospecting until success happens, but not for me. It was for them. I'm showing up for my sellers.
Yep.
And when I do that, I always make the money.
100%. So what I'm hearing is like your Push program, it's not a feel good mindset program, right? Like some of those things are obviously helpful, but it's tactical. It's accountable.
It's tactical.
Yep. And, you know, it's built for people like we're not getting ready to get ready, right? We need a system, you know, to hold you up when, you know, things are crumbling or when an objection comes in. So what are the core values behind Push? Like what makes it different than, you know, just another coaching program or another course that you buy and never watch?
This is not an ego thing. I really do believe what makes it different is it's me. And here's what I mean by that. I genuinely care if people have success. It's not transactional for me.
Yep.
And people who come through my program, even when they finish, they're still hearing from me. Hey, what's up? I haven't seen anything lately. What you got going on? What are you doing? And so I really believe it's number one because I care about them. And so I don't start off by talking. I start off by listening. My first question is, why are you here? What do you want to accomplish from being here? What money do you want to make? And I get into the big why and I hold them accountable to it. So when they choose not to do the homework, I'm like, I thought you said this was important for you and your kids. You're choosing not to have that because you're choosing not to do the activities. You can have reasons or results. You cannot have both.
Have both. Yep.
So I'm that coach that's willing to hold your hand, but also not take no shit. Like if you, I don't know if I can say that.
Yep. You're good.
No excuses. Like,
yeah.
Hey, either this is important or it isn't. If it's important, make time for it. I'm okay if you haven't finished your calls at 7. Put the kids to bed and make calls from 7:30 to 8 if this is really important to you. And if you have problems, I will walk you through it. Record your call. Let me listen to it. I'll give you feedback. There are no excuses here. And to me, that's what makes it different. I teach them how to break down that script, how to internalize it so that they're present. That's the issue. Agents show up and they're so busy thinking like, how do I respond? What do I say? How do I overcome this objection? They're not even listening to the seller and they're missing the buying cues because they're so busy thinking about how to respond. I make people like Neo in the Matrix. They're able to see the lines. Like the script is in their head so they can pay attention and hear what the sellers, people will tell you how to sell them if you would just listen.
Exactly.
Just listen. Stop talking so much. As I talk too much, I talk a lot. However,
it's all good. I say same thing. Same here. So I feel you. But yeah, it's the objections. If you treat them as a, oh, that's a roadblock. No, it's information. They're literally like, if they truly weren't interested, they'd hang up the phone or tell you to F off.
Man.
Instead, if you treat, they're literally telling me what they need in order to then go make the decision to move forward. And if you have that mindset shift, it's like, oh, okay. Like instead of being afraid of it, lean into that. Oh, well, tell me me why you feel that way. Just like you're saying.
Yeah, because an objection is an unanswered question in the mind of a seller. And so what they're really telling you is, I'm interested in working with you. I just need you to answer this because I don't understand. And so I used to be like that deer in the headlights when I got an objection, like, oh boy, what do I say? And then that moved to, hey, I just got an objection. That means I'm close. They want to work with me. All I need to do is overcome this objection. So I had to learn how to, affirm it. Okay, so you want me to lower my commission. So what I really hear you saying is, it's not what you pay me, but really what you net. It's important that you make the most money possible, right? So if I can show you how, and just break it down and understand where they're coming from.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's the difference.
Yep.
So we talked about so really it's not what we're talking about it's not vibes or vision boards or whatever. Like it's structure. It's sweat and tears and being truthful about where you're at and where you're trying to go. And when you've lived that truth, when you've had to push before it all makes sense, like that's when you can actually lead others through it, which is what, your journey sounds like it was.
Yes.
It's that blueprint, and that's how momentum is really built, and why, people keep coming back to your program, because you're not just addressing, well, what do I do to work with sellers or work with buyers or whatever. You're looking at them as a whole person. That's what I tell people too. Like, and also, by the way, these principles that we're talking about, if you apply them to your marriage or to your kids or other relationships in your life, those are going to improve too. If you think, like, if you can learn to listen to the objections and not put your defenses up when someone comes with you an objection, imagine how different your conversation with your spouse would be, or that, that family member that you have that you constantly are just, instead you actually heard what they said, okay, well, tell me more about that, instead of, well, that's not what I meant. Right.
That's right.
Right. So like, that's what I think I really see is the difference about what you're doing and what I do, that try the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, yes, like that's really the linchpin. If you and I, or, the people that you're looking up to, don't actually care and aren't actually like interested in true breakthrough with people and having it be transactional versus transformational, like that's the that you need to have, for the people that you're working with, your buyers and sellers. And so if you have that too, like what we're talking about, that is going to make a difference. That is the linchpin to, maybe the disconnect or the reason why you're not converting. It's not because you don't have the right script or whatever. It's like just taking all that away and being like, how can I actually help this person? What's actually going to make a difference? Am I listening to what it is that they're saying, or can I pick and pull through like what they're not saying, maybe, to all of that? That'll make sense, but
it definitely makes sense. And if I can give you a brief example, I had someone who wanted to sign up for my P.U.S.H training program. So we were talking, because not everyone can apply and sign up. Right. And I said, well, what issues are you having? And he explained, I have been on 10 listing appointments and I've walked away empty handed all 10 times. And I'm like, I can definitely help you. Right. So he signs up for the program. And so after the program ends, he goes on a listing appointment, and the seller said to him what most sellers say, we need to think it over. That can be the kiss of death, because you leave thinking they're going to call you on Saturday. Another agent tends to come in at the 11th hour and steals the listings. Right. So what I taught him to do was understand what they're saying. They're saying they need to think it over. So allow them to think it over. So the script I taught him was, hey, I really appreciate it. You're just like my wife and I. We need to think things over before we make a decision. I have some emails to return. I'm going to step out to my car and make a couple calls. I'm going to come back in 15 minutes, and we're going to make a decision whether you choose to list with me or if I choose to take your listing. Either one's fine. I'll be back in 15 minutes. and then go. You're not asking for permission. You're telling them, I'm stepping out and I'll be back in 15 minutes. He did that, walked back in, and they listed with him. And I was on the beach in Hawaii. He calls me. He's like, hey, I deratted that script. I did what you told me. I said, no, you did what they told you. They said they need to think about it. And you gave them an opportunity and then showed them that you know how to close because you came back in and said, so how are we moving forward? Right? It's just those little things, learning how to listen and learning how to navigate that conversation so you can get the outcome you're looking for.
100%. 100%. I love that. Okay. So P.U.S.H started as, because I want to dive a little bit more into P.U.S.H. And I know it started as a system, a movement. You got a coaching experience, and you built it for the people, in the room with you, the ones who needed the structure, the discipline when life got chaotic, because everyone's life is chaotic, and the grind, all of that, right? But now, like, you're turning it into something bigger than that, and you've got your book coming. You've got P.U.S.H. I Want It More Than I Fear It, and I pause on this because that title really hits. Like, anyone who's ever gone all in knows that what that moment feels like, and that crossroads between the fear and the momentum, and the second you stop just preparing and you start choosing and acting. So walk me through and into that moment for you. Like, what made you say, like, this doesn't just belong on a Zoom or whatever, but it belongs in people's hands and, like, in their homes, and, like, so they have it for the hard season. So why now?
Because a lot of it's not just real estate related, it's life. Like you mentioned earlier, you can use these questions to talk to your spouse and talk to your kids. I am where I am as a real estate professional because of how I handle my life, right? As an example, you know this about me, I'm into photography. And I remember upstate New York, Bear Mountain, I drove across this bridge and I had this fear of bridges. I had a traumatic issue happen when I was younger on the bridge, and I was afraid of driving across a bridge. And I remember I drove across Bear Mountain and I happened to look to the side and I was like, oh, that would be a great picture, right? So I parked my car on the other side of the bridge and I actually forced myself to get out, little baby steps. 5-minute walk probably took me an hour because I was moving so slow because I was so scared. But in my head, I kept saying something that I wear around my wrist. I want it more than I fear it. Like, I want that picture more than I fear this bridge. And that whole experience kind of created this movement. And it's like, what else do I want to accomplish in life that I'm allowing fear to keep me from doing? And if I want it more than I fear it, I'm going to do the work to overcome that fear. And so it went from my personal life, fear of bridges, fear of public speaking, to, hey, I'm dealing with agents that get into real estate and don't realize they need to get on the phone. And they have this fear of rejection, right? So I'm like, well, if you want this for your family, you got to want it more than you fear picking up this phone. And so it started with mindset more so than skills. So I got through to their mindset. Then I started teaching them the skills to actually do it, how to get on the phone, how to prospect. And guess what? They started having success. And then they were like, David, now what do we do? I've never done a listing appointment before. I'm like, oh, so I need to create another P.U.S.H and teach you how to do that. So I created another program to show you how to go on the listing appointment. And it just kept growing and evolving. And I kept growing and evolving because I wasn't afraid of failure anymore. If I grew and it didn't work out, oh, well, I'd go back to the drawing board. But guess what? It worked out because, again, like Zig Ziglar says, when you help enough people get what they want, you'll always get what you want. And I was helping people learn how to fish. Things started coming together.
Yep. And so that's, I feel like also too, that's another differentiating thing. Like, it's not just another, course. Like, it's personal. It's not just more information. And like you said, it starts up here. I'm sure you've heard of the TFAR principle of, your thoughts impact your feelings dictate your actions dictate your results, and your results reinforce what you think. So if it all starts here, it's super important. That's why same with me. I don't dive right into, okay, this is how you work with a buyer or seller, or this is how you run your list. It's like, it starts with, how do you view yourself? Do you believe that you actually have value to give to people? And do you have the resilience to keep going when you get a no, or you get pushback, because you're going to get way more of that than you are going to get yeses.
Amen. Amen. I haven't heard the TFAR in so long. And when you said it, I just remembered learning that, saying it over, almost like chanting that over and over again. And it's so true. That reinforcement is so true.
Yep. Absolutely. So when you were writing this book, what chapter felt the most raw for you? Like, just give our, I know it's not, but like, what is the one where there's like a story or a lesson that was so hard that you almost didn't want to include it in the book, maybe?
I will tell you this, and I really allowed myself to get vulnerable, and I'll show this to your people on here if I still have it. This here. That was me at almost 300 pounds. And I had to get vulnerable and tell a story about how my doctor sat down with me and he said, David, you're making poor decisions when you're out at the store. You're in the checkout line, and Reese's peanut butter cups are my weakness, just so you know, right?
No.
So every time I went shopping, I would grab one, like I couldn't resist it. And my doctor said, because of the weight gain, you're now a type 2 diabetic. And what he didn't know is that I grew up with my grandmother, and she was a type 2 diabetic. And I watched her lose a toe, then lose all her toes, then lose her foot, then lose both her legs up to her knee, to eventually losing her eyesight, and then dementia, right? So I had seen that growing up. And so my doctor said this to me, and excuse my language, I'm telling you what he said.
Yep.
He said, David, it really boils down to this. Do you want the Reese's peanut butter cup, or do you want your fucking feet? I was like, well, and he didn't know about my grandmother when he said that.
Oh, interesting.
And that hit me, and I got emotional. And remember, logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. Well, logically, I knew I don't need the Reese's peanut butter cups. Yes. But when he hit me with that, I was like, he's right. I've seen what that looks like. Mm-hmm. I got to get myself, like, so I was at 300. I'm at 232 now.
Wow.
Because I want to live. Like, I want to have a good quality of life. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I had to make some different decisions and show up differently for myself. And being vulnerable like that in the book and telling that story and showing these pictures, I'm really embarrassed by that. However, I'm not helping people if I hide behind my truth. That's just my truth.
Yep.
I let my weight get out of control. It affected my health. If I didn't turn it around, things were going to be negatively impacted on my body. I had to make some better decisions. And I think that's a lesson that people can apply to anything.
Yep.
Logic, emotion.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's interesting too, like what I've learned, because I used to identify myself as like, well, I'm a private person, and I had, tons of limiting beliefs around showing up on social media. And when I tell people that, they're like, wait, what, you? Like,
that's what I'm like,
that's exactly like, what? My face is all over the internet. Like, I'm, right. But like, I didn't, that's not what I would say was me. That's not like, what I wanted to do. That was way outside my comfort zone. But when I realized and actually got honest, and someone, I had someone, my marketing director, she was like, Jen, you are literally stepping over so much opportunity and money. And like, it is like the linchpin that you like, if you want to last in this business, and she didn't even come from real estate. It was just a principle. If you want to last, like, you have to get outside of your comfort zone. And it's interesting when you're vulnerable with people and you actually share, that's where change happens. That's where the emotional play comes in. And that's where connection is actually made, where agents were so concerned about, well, how do I look, and how am I going to sound, and what do I say, and how do I respond? And it's like, vulnerability is what creates connection.
Amen.
Perfect. And so the fact that you were willing to share that, like, I know how hard that is. Like, I know, like, vulnerability to me was one of the scariest things that I had to overcome. And I still have to force myself to do it sometimes, but it's because I know I've stepped out of my comfort zone enough and seen the impact of what that does and how it actually changes people's lives. And that's actually something I didn't know about you. I've known you, for years now. I know your story about the bridges. I know the story about that your fear of public speaking, but that's, I'm like, oh my gosh, and it just, it causes, it's an example for other people, and to be like, okay, if he went through that, if he got through that, okay, I can do it too. And so I just think that's really powerful.
Thank you. And I got to tell you, like, to hear you say you were uncomfortable on social media, and I see you show up and you're like, hey, it's like party time. I'm like, if you can go from being uncomfortable to where you are, anybody can do it.
Yeah, 100%. That's amazing. Exactly how I feel. I'm like, you guys, like, and that's why, why vulnerability and why talking to people like you, I love this, because it's like, it's not just me. I'm like, no, like, quote unquote people at the top, or where you know think that you want to be. Like, we have no less struggles. It's not like, you know, the road was easy for us. It's like we just decided to keep going. I remember when I created, you know, my hype squad, and like at first 2 people showed up, and I was like, oh, like maybe I'm not so good at this, or da, da, da. Like, do you know how many times I had to show up to starting the coaching journey and the training and whatever? And it's the same thing when you're starting real estate, or when you're rut with that. Like, I've made all these calls, or I've whatever, or I went on 10 listing appointments, and none of them said, maybe I'm not cut out for this, right? But the difference is you keep going, and you make some changes, and you try again. You know, I tell people I probably failed more times than you've ever even tried. You know, so it's.
I know that's right. Absolutely, absolutely.
So, okay, well, let's do this. So now that we're all like emotionally invested, and when can we actually get our hands on this book? What does that timeline look like?
So let me show you the book. And I love lions. I just came back from Africa and got some beautiful lion pictures.
Wow.
This book. So here's the thing. I actually published my book. I got in my head, I'm like, who am I to write a book? Who's going to read this book? Who's going to buy this book? Blah, blah, blah. Right. I unpublished it.
Really?
I did. And I share that because, like, I'm not perfect. I'm a coach and I help people. I still have self-doubt. I still have drunk monkeys. I'm human just like anybody else. And I had a coach come on one of my morning mindset calls, and she talked about her writing a book and her unpublishing it and having all the doubt that I had. And I'm like, she is talking to me, right? And so I just recommitted to myself, because I didn't write this book for anybody. I wrote this book for me, right? To beat an accomplishment, do something that was on my vision board that I wanted to do. I know it's going to help a lot of people, but it was really proving to myself that I could do it. So I'm going to re-release it. My wife was a little upset with me because she was not part of writing the book and helping me with that. I actually kind of kept it a secret. So she is going to plan a release party for me, and I'm going to re-release it in July. And get it out there, because it's such a great book. You know, How to Push Beyond Your Limits, Succeed Without Fear, and Crush Your Real Estate Goals. It talks about all the things I learned, all the things I did when I started out in real estate that will help you, no matter where you are in the business, overcome the drunk monkeys, get into action, but also understand how to set up, you know, a solid foundation for a great real estate business. That's what it really breaks down.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and for people who don't know what drunk monkeys are, I do, but I think the audience would love to know, because do I have one of those?
Well, it's that here's the book, and then it's that drunk monkey in your ear saying, who are you to write a book? Who's going to read that book? Who's going to buy the book? Oh, I'm starting this new coaching program. Who's going to sign up? Only 2 people are here. Is it ever going to grow? It's that negative self-talk we have. And we just got to learn how to silence that drunk monkey.
100%. I love it.
That's it. That's it.
Okay, cool. Well, I know we're getting to the top of the hour, but before I let you out of here, let's loosen it up a little bit, and I'm going to hit you with a few this or that questions. Okay, it's going to be rapid fire. You don't have to overthink it. Okay, just let's do it. Okay, you ready?
I'm so ready.
Instagram or YouTube?
Instagram.
Cold call or coffee meeting?
Cold call.
Hustle or leverage?
Leverage.
Book or mic?
Book.
Speaking truth or playing safe?
Speaking truth.
Scotch or cigar? Don't lie to us.
Oh, God, that's tough. Cigar. It's tough. Cigar.
Leaders, born or built?
Built.
Build slow and steady or all in and course correct?
I
know, it's a tough one.
I have a hard time with that one. I'm going to say slow and steady.
Okay. Early mornings or late nights?
Both. Early mornings, though.
Okay. Okay. You survived. You survived the rapid fire. That's it.
Listen, I burn on both ends. I go to bed late and wake up early.
That's how I am too. I'm like, I hate that question, but I throw it in there.
Tomorrow's not promised to any of us. I want to make sure I'm enjoying my day. I was outside by my fire pit after midnight, and I'm up at 5 a.m. Like, let's go. Let's go. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well, D-Rad, thank you so much for getting in the hype seat and just going on. This was awesome. And I know that so many people needed to hear this. It's not just the wins that, that we want to talk about, but the war literally that it takes to get there.
Amen.
And, I just want everyone to know, like, if you're listening to this and wondering whether you're doing enough or if the grind and the silence and the pressure is all worth it, please let this episode, his story, my story, be proof that it absolutely is. But you don't get the peace without the push. You don't get the alignment without taking the action. You sure as heck don't get the momentum if you keep playing small. So is there anything else I want to give you the last word here? Anything you want to leave our audience with before we head out of here?
I think that you should adopt my affirmation and just say, I want it more than I fear it, because why not you? Mm-hmm. If someone else who looks like you has done it, why can't you do it too? And I would just say this: somebody's leaving a comment. They have a few drunk monkeys in their space and need to be evicted. Evict them. Get them out of there, because it's holding you back from living the type of life you want to live. And we don't have time on our side. We don't know how much time we have. So why not start living that life now? You could wait 10 years. You're not promised to be here in 10 years. I believe stepping out and getting it done. So get rid of those drunk monkeys. Evict them.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Love it. Love it. Yep. Okay, well, really quickly, since we have a couple minutes here, I'm just going to read these comments. If you have any questions, you guys, as we're wrapping up, feel free to throw them in the comments. I'll try and grab them. Cindy says, definitely getting the book. Stylish Bear says, give me the book now. Let's see. The best sales is relationship building and value. Yes. The bleed. Heck yeah. Nothing happens if you're not trying. Quitting is for the weak. Yes. Millionaire Manuel's. Let's see. Sometimes it is laziness, though. When does that come into play? The lazy versus the actual effort. I don't know if that was a question or a statement, but let's see what we have. Oh, I love that. Yes. I go to my dream neighborhood almost every week. Okay, Adrian, love that.
I love that.
Yep. Love it. Love it. Cool. Well, mainly just like, yes, got this. So we got the people empowered. We got them hyped up.
Well, the book is coming. I appreciate the support, but more importantly, I don't want you to read it, but more importantly, I want you to implement what's in there. It will change your life if you just do some of the activities I have aligned in that book for you. Just step out on faith. Start taking baby steps.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, cool, you guys. If you felt this episode, please share it, tag us, DM it to someone who's just in the trenches right now. And if you want to follow David Radney, aka D-Rad, and you guys can learn more about his P.U.S.H program or grab the book when it drops in July. Everything is linked in the show notes and in our episode bios across all the platforms. So we will see you guys next time, same fire. Thank you so much, D-Rad. And this is the Hype Seat, you guys.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. See ya. Bye. Bye-bye.